a few months ago, I was speaking to this man who I will not be naming for the sake of his own privacy, but this man is a spiritual teacher of sorts. He's a mentor. He has a lot of experience. He reads a lot of books. And I frequently go up to him for advice, just asking him questions or simply saying hello. Now, a few months ago, I was writing one of my scripts and I had sent it to him for advice. And he said that he couldn't read, that he read it, but he couldn't give me a full response. So he'll speak to me in person. And so we did. The following day, we spoke in person. And he was giving me some pretty heavy criticism. He was saying that I needed to do this before I could write on this, that I needed more experience, I needed more wisdom, that I didn't have enough knowledge yet, or that I didn't have enough wisdom yet. Do you want to know what my response was? I started getting annoyed and frustrated. I started looking at the man who had 2-3 decades on me, and I was thinking, this guy's wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I have enough knowledge for this. I can, I don't need that much wisdom. I can write this, bro. What are you talking about? And I was thinking all these negative thoughts, I was essentially failing to admit that I was naive. I didn't want to admit that I needed more knowledge, and so I immediately went on the defensive and started protecting my ego, my pride. You, me, and everyone else is naive in something. There's always knowledge and wisdom that we're missing, and there's a difference between the two, which is why I'm separating them. Knowledge and wisdom are not the same, and we'll go over that in a bit. But the point is, we are not as smart as we think we are. We are more naive than we would like to admit. And so, it's important that when we're on our self-improvement, and when we're trying to make use of our lives, and when we're trying to pursue our purpose, that we first admit to ourselves that we're lacking in experience, we're lacking in knowledge, and ultimately lacking in wisdom. So, why are we so unwilling to admit that we are naive? Well, I mentioned this just a few seconds ago, how I was protecting my own pride. The ego is what stops us from admitting that we are naive. Because, when we have to admit that we are unknowing, that we don't know enough yet, that we're falling short on something, that we're not as good as we think we are, our pride and sense of self is hurt. We think that when someone tells us, hey, you're not ready for that, we take that as an insult, as a test. Oh, what are you saying? You saying that I'm not good enough? We take offense to it. It becomes it turns into a personal attack when it was simply just a friendly guide, literally something that was going to help you. But because you took offense to it, now it lost its value. So the ego is what prevents us from doing this. And thus, in order to admit that we are naive, in order to make real progress, we must first control our own emotions and our own ego. So first, we're going to briefly cover how to control your ego, or how to begin controlling your ego, better put, since controlling the ego and controlling your desires is not something that you just master within a year of your self-improvement, not even within a year of your life. It takes decades. It takes your entire life. The philosophers of Stoicism dedicated their entire life to this practice, and so don't expect to be any different. Maybe it comes quicker, maybe it comes later, does not matter. Do not expect to do any better than the men who dedicated their lives to this practice. It's something that requires practice every single day. So, how do we go about practicing Stoicism? Well, firstly, you need to learn the literature. read books on Stoicism. Read directly from the source. Read directly from the philosophers. I recommend you read Meditations first. There's a video up on my channel by now dedicated to, it's short, like a few minutes long, on how to read the Meditations, since it's not, you can't read it like a book. It was a journal, so you can't read the Meditations like a book. There's a specific way you need to read it, so check out that video if you're interested. But in general, read the source material, and then you can watch other YouTube videos, other interpretations, whatever. But when you're first starting out, just study the Stoic literature, and then after that, find ways to practice it in everyday life. The thing that with Stoicism and what's made it rise in popularity recently is that it's extremely practical. It's not like Descartes' philosophy or Spinoza's philosophy. You can apply this directly to your life right now with no other restrictions, nothing holding you back. This is a philosophy that at any moment can simply be applied. So find ways in your everyday life to practice the philosophy. If you feel a craving that you know you shouldn't be indulging in, boom, there's an opportunity. If you don't want to go somewhere but you know you need to, like the gym, there's your opportunity. If you want to indulge in the thing that you said you weren't going to do anymore because of like your personal ideals and beliefs, whatever, that's your opportunity. There are, especially in the modern world, there are so many opportunities to use Stoicism, which is kind of sad, considering that means that there's indulgence everywhere and all this hyperstimulation. But this is at the same time good for us, because this means that there's a lot more opportunities for us to practice the Stoicism, and we might, as a result, learn to master our ego or learn to be in better control of it faster than the philosophers did. Because in the age of the philosophers, there was less indulgence around. In the modern age, it's literally everywhere. From the first second you wake up, it's already trying to get at you. So it becomes a lot easier to practice the philosophy. Learn the literature, practice a philosophy, and take your time. Obviously, that doesn't mean procrastinate and like, oh, well, I'm taking my time with it, so I'll indulge. But be patient with your Stoicism. It's going to take you a long time to get good at it. I'm still trying to get good at it. So do not expect to have fast results. I know I already said that, but I really want to get that through your head. Do not expect the Stoic journey to be a fast one, or any philosophical path for that matter. Any philosophy, do not expect it to be fast, because the men who wrote the philosophy had spent like more than a decade by that time thinking about how their philosophy works. So that is a general way to, just a quick tutorial or a quick guide basically on how to learn Stoicism and practice it. I mentioned earlier in this video that wisdom and knowledge are not the same. Now, that isn't to say that they aren't similar, because they certainly are, but they are categories. They are two separate categories, right? A lot of people have a tendency to mix knowledge and wisdom. When they say wisdom, they refer to knowledge. When they say knowledge, they refer to wisdom. The two are different, and so we're going to outline the differences here right now. Knowledge is what you learn from other people's experiences. So knowledge is like reading books, watching these videos, getting a lesson from a teacher or a mentor, having a life lesson taught to you by your father or your mother. These things help you gain knowledge because you're learning things. You're learning more things, but not out of your own experience. The main difference between knowledge and wisdom is that although you're learning with both of them, wisdom is the knowledge that you gain from experience. And wisdom is a lot more valuable because you yourself have you've gone through the thing that you're teaching the other person. Imagine if you went to like a boxing class, like a boxing school, and then the instructor's telling you how to do the punches, and it feels weird, and then you're asking him, "Oh, how do you do this?" And he says, "Oh, I don't know. I watched this on YouTube, so I'll need to go watch a video to help tell you how to do that." You will look at him like he's fucking weird, like he's crazy, bro. You're teaching a boxing class, and you haven't even done boxing yourself. Wisdom is the knowledge you gain from actually doing the thing you're teaching. The Stoics, like Ryan Holiday gives advice on Stoicism based on what he experienced himself. People who write books, it's literally 10 years worth of experience compacted into like a 2-hour read. It's crazy. You need wisdom, because without wisdom and only with knowledge, you don't really get a sense of what the world is really like. Because wisdom helps you see the world in a different perspective, right? Because with knowledge, you can almost have like an apathetic, unbiased, disconnected is the best word, disconnected perspective with things. You can read a research paper and think, oh, well, they did this wrong and they did that wrong. You can look at statistics for poverty and homelessness and say, oh, well, it's their fault. They went in that situation. But if you experience poverty yourself, your outlook is it's significantly different from that man who just looks at the statistics. If you've experienced homelessness and poverty yourself, there's a lot more empathy and understanding the other situation. There's a lot more understanding and compassion and truly, well, I guess empathy is the word for this, but like, you see, if you've experienced that poverty yourself and you see someone else in poverty, unlike the person who simply gained the knowledge, who might be quick to assume, oh, well, it's their fault. They should just work harder. If you've experienced it yourself, you go, okay, well, no, I understand that there are many people in this world who it's not their fault. Things out of their control happen, and then they became homeless as a result. I understand that this person is suffering deeply, and so I'm not going to make him suffer more by saying that he should just get a job. He's probably already tried that. He's probably working a job. With wisdom, there's a lot more empathy and there's a deeper understanding for the world. With knowledge, although you may gain understanding of the world, although this is certainly valuable, I'm not saying you shouldn't gain knowledge, it does not teach you the way that experience does. Right? So that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is the wisdom that you receive from other people. It's not your own experience. Wisdom is your own experience. It's what you learn from your life, from the events that happen in your life. Now, although research and literature and things of that nature, they certainly are valuable and they should not be discarded, nothing teaches you the way experience does. And so your priority should not be knowledge, it should be wisdom. Especially when you're young, like 15, 16, 14, 13, and younger. You need to be prioritizing experience. Prioritize getting out there in the world and learning how things work, having experiences of your own. This way, you have a far deeper understanding of the world rather than simply reading it or watching it in a video. Now, this isn't to say that you should not be gaining knowledge as well, because reading and researching is incredibly valuable. When I speak to that mentor that I mentioned earlier, I'm not gaining wisdom, I'm gaining knowledge. But this knowledge is going to help me gain wisdom and experience. That's going to help me develop myself. So, and on top of that, knowledge, the whole point of passing down wisdom is so that the people who you pass your wisdom onto don't need to spend as much time learning what you did. They can simply hear it from you and apply it. It's the same thing with Stoicism. The Stoics and every philosopher, they, especially the ones that write for, actually, self improvement is better for this. Get a YouTuber like Hamza, right? He condenses his experiences into like 1, 2 hour long guides so that people don't have to spend 3 years learning what he did. Instead, they can simply hear his experience and then apply it in their own life immediately. And that's 3 years saved, which does not sound like a lot, but if you're trying to achieve high goals, 3 years is a fuck ton of time. That is a lot of time that you've just saved simply because somebody else came and spoke to you. So, knowledge is extremely valuable and you should be gaining it, but wisdom should be a priority because without wisdom, yeah, you'll have the knowledge, but you won't have the real world experience. And it's hard for me to describe it, but the type of knowledge that you gain from wisdom, the things you learn from wisdom, the way it affects you is different. The way you develop from it is different than knowledge. Like I said earlier, knowledge, you can sort of disconnect yourself from the feelings that come with that. But with wisdom, you were there. Think of the poverty example I gave earlier. How you can look, if you've experienced things yourself, you can look at the world with such a greater sense of empathy, such a greater sense of understanding and compassion. You know, through knowledge, we can simply accept that something is the way it is. Like, for example, if I read about people who love nature, right? Like all those philosophies, like the naturists, I could simply say, yeah, plants are important, nature's important. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with it, but I don't agree with it. I understand it, but I don't understand it. It's two different types of understanding. With knowledge, you like intellectually in your mind, you understand it. You get what it's saying, you get what it means. And maybe you have the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes and say, damn, that's a really traumatic experience. I'm sorry you went through that, or whatever the situation may be. But the ones who understand it, the ones who experience it themselves, they have such a deeper understanding of the world. And this is why the greatest minds are not seeking just knowledge, they're seeking wisdom. I know that was kind of a rant there, but I just wanted to outline that wisdom is super important. Even though you should not discard knowledge, wisdom is super important and you need it. There are a few ways to gain wisdom, but the main and most obvious way is to seek new experiences. Now, although this may seem like difficult, you don't have to, I'm not saying that you have to, like every other week, go skydiving, go on a cruise, go on it, like, you don't have to do these big events. New experiences is simply new things. That's it. And there's so much that we don't know. Remember what I said in the beginning. We are naive. We're far more naive than we like to admit. And so there's a bunch of stuff that we still haven't experienced that is waiting to teach us something. Simply a walk in the park. A walk in the park and really looking at the trees and trying to understand nature and where it comes from and how everything is connected to each other. That is enough to help you gain wisdom. Like imagine someone who's locked in their room all day playing video games, going outside and seeing people play volleyball at the park, seeing people play soccer or playing themselves, asking a random person, hey, can I play with you guys? That is a new experience and that helps in the self-development. That helps in teaching them something new. That maybe it's not so hard to just say hi to people. That it's not so hard to go outside and really appreciate your life. That you need gratitude. There's so many things that you can learn simply from experience. And again, these are small experiences. You don't need to do anything drastic. You can simply, if you're a very introverted person, say hi. Just say hi to random people or hold eye contact for longer during conversations or just, you know, give somebody a compliment, something. something new, something you haven't done, something that you fear. These things, these things are what help you gain wisdom. So the first thing is just experience. Just get out there and do things that you haven't done before, that you fear doing, that you keep procrastinating on. Just do them. And then I promise you, if you look deep enough, you will find meaning in them. Now, this brings me to my next point, that when you go through living your life, you need to take a philosophical approach. You need to look at everything through this philosophical lens of understanding and trying to penetrate to the core of what something is. So what I mean by this is that in your life, you should be trying your best to extrapolate meaning from anything and everything. I'll give you an example right now. Let's say somebody's walking past a cemetery. Instead of simply thinking, oh, well, that's a lot of dead people, the frequent thought that you get when you see like all those graves and everything. Oh, wow, that's a lot of people have died here. Instead of just thinking that like surface level thought, try to look deeper, think this person under me used to be alive. They used to be breathing like me. And then they died, decomposed, and now the things that made them up, they're in something else. It went into the dirt. The matter that made them went into the dirt, and then to a worm, and then that worm went to a bird, and then now that person is essentially the bird, because the nutrients from the worm went to creating muscle or whatever else. Try to take that philosophical, deeper understanding of the world when you go about life, when you go about just doing anything, even when you see other people, right? When you see someone having an emotional reaction towards somebody else or you, understand that they are not doing that because they don't like you. They're doing that because all of their experiences have taught them that that's the way to react. So every day, just regardless of whether or not you're experiencing something new or not, like regardless of whether or not you're doing something out of the ordinary, something new, make sure that you're always trying to see the beauty in things, to see things for what they really are. It becomes so much easier to forgive and forget, to understand other people, to understand the world, when you take this philosophical approach to life. When you're looking at the grass under your feet and thinking, one day I'm going to be reconstituted into this after I die. That one day everything here will end, but I'm going to keep doing what I want to do anyway, because that's what else is there to do. It's what brings us meaning. You can look at festivals and think, wow, culture really brings us together like this. Culture makes us forget all of our differences. We can simply come together and participate. Try to look deeper when you live your life into everything. As I said earlier, do not just depend on wisdom or knowledge. Use both, because knowledge is incredibly valuable and saves you a lot of time, but wisdom is the thing that really teaches you how life works. It teaches you things through firsthand experience, and these things have a lot more impact on you than knowledge does. So for your actionable step, there's a few things I want you to do. Firstly, just go experience. Right now, open a journal, something to write on, and then ask yourself where you are lacking, what you need to learn, and then go experience things that you think might teach you those things that you need to learn. Secondly, find a mentor. Going and experiencing that first step that I gave you is for wisdom. Now, for knowledge, you need to find a mentor. Find someone like that man who I mentioned at the beginning, who you can go to and ask questions about life. These men who have more experience than you. I promise you, if you go to like a fighting class or a gym, these like clubs, you will find that person there. That person out of everyone else who has the most experience, someone who can mentor you. Find that person and then listen to him. Do not be blind. Do not blindly listen to him, like on anything. On everything. But take his words with great humility. If he says try something, try it. And if it doesn't work, don't simply go, oh, well, he must be right. He's a mentor. Just simply try something new. Try something. Get advice from other people who may have experienced the thing that you're trying to learn. Take different approaches. But in general, you want to have that like main guy, those 1, 2, 3 people who you get advice from. I have multiple people. I have 2 main guys who I talk to who give me advice. The older man who I mentioned at the beginning, and then the younger guy who he's still older than me, but the age gap is significantly different. It's significantly shorter. So find a small like group of people who have more wisdom than you so that you can learn from them and then apply their wisdom immediately without spending all the time that they did. So that's your actionable step. Learn where you are lacking, what you need to learn, and go experience things that you believe might teach you what you're lacking in, what you need to learn. And secondly, find those mentors who are going to help you gain the knowledge that you need. With that, I'm able to conclude this video. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought. I have a lot of stuff in the works for you guys. I have new videos coming out, some full guides that I'm planning to produce. Very exciting stuff. Check out my Medium page because a lot of times I'll post things on there that I don't post on my YouTube. So you can check that out. I have some full guides coming in. That's all. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.